Hello. I'd like to welcome back Ted. I'm not sure, but he may have been with Taylor Swift. I'm not sure, but
No.
after his recent tour, we're glad he's back with us. And today we're going to talk about what happens from the vineyard to your bottle. And Ted, being an expert on the side of the marketing and so forth, would like to have your contribution. What do you think?
Well, yeah, there's a lot that goes into the business side of what gets wine from a grape on a vine in a vineyard somewhere to your glass. But I think we need to kick it back a little further than that. Doc, you had a chance to do a little tasting for a group, and I think they posed kind of an interesting question that I know we've hit on before. But you want to tell us a little bit about what those people asked?
Yeah, I had a really great experience because we wanted to talk about what makes a really great wine. And like we said, it all starts with the grape. And without good surroundings, what the French call terroir, you don't really have a good chance. Then you got to couple that with a good vintner, someone who can tend the grapes, a farmer, and then someone who's going to be a good winemaker. So it's really super when you begin to understand the hands-on approach that's required to grow those grapes and then to make good wine. So once we get the wine into the bottle, where does it go, Ted?
Well, and that's kind of a kind of a tricky question when it comes to any producing any wine or spirit or even beer. A lot of times that you have a lot of great products that are produced that never actually hit the regular market. And by regular market, I'm talking about your you know wine shop set, I mean shelves, or your grocery store shelves or your wine list. And basically, what it comes down to is the commerce of relationships. And basically, what happens is wineries either are owned by big corporations like E&J Gallo, Constellation, Diageo, you know, people like Treasury Wine Estates, Co-Brand. These are all big, what they call suppliers or brokerage houses. And essentially, they find these wines or these wineries out there and represent them to the general buying public. And what I mean by the general buying public is usually distributors. And that's what I actually work for now. And a distributor is a basically the middleman in there. They bring in products and then distribute those products out to your independent retail stores, your grocery stores, your what they call on-premise accounts, which is means the alcohol is consumed on the premises, i.e., bars and restaurants. So, it's kind of what they call in the industry the three-tier system. You have supplier, which represents your makers, your producers. You have distributor, and then you have retailer or restaurateur.
Question. What about the generic wines that you now begin to see under a label like in some of the big box stores that you don't even know anything except for the fact that it's a Chardonnay or if it's a Cabernet? You don't even know who's the producer and where it came from. Where does that fit into the picture?
Well, and a lot of that comes into what they call off brand products. And by definition, by BATF law, you only have to change the formula of a wine 1% to basically package it under a different label. And it's a lot like what you see in big box chains and things like that, where they have their store brand or their off brand in there. And so you can find some really nice values out there. And a lot of them can be actually made by, bigger name brand producers. They're just not going to put their name on those products.
But they do have to change the composition
Yes,
ever so slightly.
ever so slightly. But you can add 1% Merlot to a Cabernet, or 1% Chenin Blanc to a to a Chardonnay, and you really haven't changed a whole lot as far as the actual flavor of that wine. So,
but now then it's going to come to the retailer,
mm-hmm.
and that's when we as consumers come into the picture.
Yes, absolutely. And that's also where you kind of lean on your sommelier in your restaurant, or your wine steward, and like say your lead wine clerk in your independent retail, wine shop. A lot of times they'll know a lot of those, little ends of, yes, this may be a little bit cheaper, but it's, produced by, this vineyard, or it's a little sub product of this winemaker, or, so on and so forth. So,
and one of the things that I tried to stress when I talked to my group was read the label.
Yeah.
Because the label is going to tell you a lot. It may just be some meaningless little art, but on the other hand, it may be a very simple label. It may list not only the type of wine, if it's domestic,
mm-hmm.
but the region, not just California, but perhaps Napa or Sonoma. And if it's really a pretty good wine, it's going to tell you the AVA, or the region from which it comes within that, and sometimes even the vineyard.
Yeah.
So read it. The only thing you got to have that the law says, though, is the percentage alcohol.
Pretty much. But I think Doc even more so brings up a great, point there. There's a huge, part of the industry right now that's called travel retail. And basically that means where people are going out to these particular regions and going around and trying different wines, trying different vineyards, things like that, where, you may stumble across some small little vineyard somewhere in a region that you're really, really fond of, that may not produce enough wine to ever, what they call, feed the beast, which is that 3-tier, system. And a lot of states, yeah, exactly. So a lot of states like Tennessee will allow, what they call, shipper's license, which is only, I think, in state of Tennessee, it's only about $300, in there. So, a lot of these smaller producers, because they feel restricted by the 3-tier system, in that they have to produce such volume to feed that supply chain, maybe are never going to reach those heights, but they would be willing to, ship you a case or two to your front door. So go out there and search out kind of new things. If you can, do what my friend Doc over here does. Go to different regions, go to different areas, go to different countries that produce great wines, and then seek those smaller producers out. You may find the next super gem out there.
That's for sure. But so glad to have you back.
Glad to be back.
Cheers.
And as always, like, comment, subscribe.